Alright guys, fixed the fucking audio quality. I think I fixed the mic. Hopefully I did. I don't know, because obviously I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, but hopefully it's better. Alright, so keep that in mind. So I've been thinking, right? um I don't think people stay in unhealthy relationships just because they enjoy getting treated poorly, right? Unless you're a masochist, right? But that's I'm not talking about that right now, right? I think a lot of times, like, people, for example, like, maybe a toxic relationship, or maybe a relationship that's probably not good for them, right? As I feel like subconsciously they feel like that's the best they deserve. Like, a lot of people, they feel like that's the best they deserve. We're so used to it. We're so used to inconsistent treatment because that's what's most familiar to us. And sometimes it's hard to let go of what's most familiar to us, right? Because you're scared of the unknown, right? It happens every time, right? You excuse behavior that hurts you because you're afraid of losing them. Or maybe you try to defend their actions because you think to yourself that they're trying their best, right? I mean, they're trying their best. I mean, it's nothing they can do, right? And maybe they are. They probably are, right? But it doesn't change the fact that they still hurt you. And maybe it's just me, right? Maybe I'm fucking Mr. Sensitive over here. Maybe I get too hurt too easily, whatever, right? But also, maybe I just got so used to it that it just doesn't, these things don't dawn on me until after the fact. Like, I don't realize it until after the fact. And so I've noticed I've had this thing, right, for explaining away things for other people, right? I make excuses for them in my head for when they treat me inconsistently. And maybe they aren't excuses, right? Maybe excuse is the wrong word. I don't know what the right word is, right? Maybe, for example, they really do have something serious going on in their life or something in their own life, right? A lot of times that genuinely is the case, right? But it's still the same thing if you look at it from an outside perspective, right? Maybe they're just busy, right? Maybe they have their own life. Everyone has their own life, right? I get it. Everyone has their own different way of communicating and expressing themselves, expressing their needs. People get overwhelmed and have other things to worry about. I get that, right? I get it, right? But it's hard because there's a difference between giving someone grace and, right, and lowering your standards only when it's applied to them, right? Because you're afraid of losing them. And it's so hard for me to identify that line. I still don't know where that line is. And it's something I only experienced recently, right? I always thought being understanding of someone means accepting everything, right? All the good and all the bad that comes. And in a way it is. I still think I do believe that, right? But now I don't know, right? I think it becomes something sort of unhealthy when it runs only in a one-way street, right? Because I feel like there's an imbalance in power. If you always let the other person dictate the tone, right? There's a power balance, right? And it's like I tied my self-worth and respect to how this person behaved towards me. And it fucking sucks, right? And maybe, right? Maybe they have gone and are going through a rough patch in their life, right? And so you feel like because of that, you have to be there, right? If I really cared about them, right? I have to be flexible enough, patient, forgiving, and willing to bend certain things that I would normally not be willing to bend. But if they're around, like, I should be willing to, like, bend those things if I cared about them, right? And I didn't realize how, like, sort of warped that mindset was until I really took a step back and looked at myself. And I felt like, I was constantly adjusting and shrinking myself to make things more comfortable for them. And it's weird because I thought that was what good people do. I thought that's just what you do. I thought that's, if you cared about someone, that's what you should do. And maybe that is the case, right? But now I don't know. I think if it only runs in a one-way street, like I said, it just rips you apart, right? And I thought I did it for them, right? I thought I did it for them. But maybe I did it for me, right? Almost so the experience of how they behave towards me reached the potential of what I envisioned them to be. I don't know if that makes sense. That's kind of, I'm going off the top of my head here, right? So I don't know if that makes sense. But does that make me a bad person, right? Does that make me selfish? I don't know, right? And I wonder why, right? I wonder why. I think to myself why they had such a strong chokehold on me, why they had such a big impact on me, good and bad, right? Why I kept chasing them when they gave me just enough attention or said something maybe specifically nice to me, like every small positive thing made me much more happy or excited. And maybe it wasn't them I was chasing, right? Maybe it's just a feeling of finally being good enough. Like if I could get them to fully choose me the way I know I would for them, it would prove that I'm good enough. It would prove that I'm finally enough. But it's a losing game to play, and you can't ever win, right? It's like being stuck running a hamster wheel. You just fucking a cycle that keeps going, right? Because when your self-worth and your self-confidence depends on someone else's behavior and choices, you never feel secure. In the moment, you feel like there's always something you can do, always something you can do differently, something you need to correct and fix. And so you overanalyze every past move, every text, every word that you said, and you do anything to try to correct the problem. It's like correcting a coordinates, like directions, a destination on a GPS, except the coordinates are wrong and the directions don't take you anywhere. They just take you to somewhere in the middle of butt-fuck nowhere. And they just drop you off and say, here, have fun. Right? And sometimes it's me, right? Sometimes it maybe is me, right? But I feel like I'm a bad person. And I don't care. If I don't think about think about first what I could have done. What did I do wrong? That's what I should think about first before I even look and examine it, see if it was them, right? I constantly look for signs, right? I kept looking for signs if they were pulling away, and it drove me up the fucking wall, man. It was exhausting. And I thought it was because I cared about them. It was something I had to do, right? Because how could I, right? If I didn't do that, if I didn't think those things, how could I say I truly cared, right? And in a way, I still feel that way. And maybe that's why it always happens to me in my most important relationships, right? Maybe I'm setting up myself up for failure, right? All right, well, but these things, right? And if they only go a one-way street, it can be so exhausting and tiring, and it's all you can think about, right? It made me feel like I constantly had to earn something from them that shouldn't even have to be earned. I had to earn their attention. I had to earn their affection, right? And I don't know how that makes me feel, right? I wish that someone had told me, right, that the right people don't make you wonder like constantly if I'm enough, right? The right people don't make you constantly wonder this. And it sucks because maybe they do treat you really well sometimes, right? That's the thing. It's that level of uncertainty, right? And you know how good it can be because they have done it before and you've seen it happen before. And so you think to yourself, surely, because it's happened before, that if you do certain things, you can maybe get that again. And it continues in a loop over and over again, right? To the point where almost when I do receive any level of positive affection from them, right, it almost makes me feel suspicious because I'm so not used to it from them. And it makes me almost scared because I'm terrified because if I screw it up, I'll lose it again. And I've thought about that a lot, right? Always stepping on eggshells, always keeping you on your toes. I feel like it's proof that you're chasing something you're trying to earn that you shouldn't even have to earn, right? Either way, I just hated how they make me feel sometimes, right? I hated how they made me feel sometimes. And I guess maybe that's because healthy love and care, right, should make you feel like yourself, not where you have to always question where you stand in their mind. You can just be yourself without always having to be smaller, right? It's based on consistency. And you don't have to perform to be perfect all the time to deserve their love and care. But hey, I don't know. I'm not sure.